Okay, everybody sit down. Just give me 5 more minutes here. The Spirit of God wants to say something about the holy fire. The holy fire originates from heaven at the altar. It never goes out. There's right now an altar that is on fire. And that fire is not from this realm, but if it touches this realm, it changes everything. Now, you need the holy fire. Fire is your friend. It's not painful if you yield to it. It's painful if you resist it. Now, when a person gets hit by God, when they get hit, when their hands get laid on them, or somebody walks by them and you fall, your body responds to the power because there's a resistance. When electricity flows freely, you don't see any effects of that electricity. It's only when it gets to a point where there's resistance that you see shaking. So when a person is being electrocuted, it's because it's not copper wire and it's not flowing right. It's flowing through you, and there's things that you're made of that are resistant to the flow. So your body responds to the power of God differently than your spirit does. Now, when God hits you, sometimes you start laughing. But then there's times where you start crying. And you don't understand why the response is the way it is. It has to do with the flow. But fire burns up the chaff. Fire burns up the resistance. So Jesus didn't walk around and get hit by God and fall down and start shaking. But yet, when he touched people, they got touched, they got hit. Peter would just walk down the street and people would fall and get healed. The Holy Spirit will touch you, and there'll be a different response with everyone. People will respond. Some people fall and they start yelling in tongues. Some people scream. Some people don't say a thing. Some people cry. Some people laugh. But do you understand that the Spirit of God is doing his work, but there is resistance in people's soul and in their body? But their spirit is made out of the spiritual substance like the Holy Spirit. So it's spirit to spirit. So God is a spirit. Those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. John 4:24. Okay, now listen. God is not a mind. He's a spirit. So he's not going to talk to your mind. He's not a body. He's not flesh and blood. He's a spirit. So when he talks to you, he's not going to talk through your body. He doesn't have to talk through your body. He can talk to your spirit, spirit to spirit. That's why you're born again, is so he can talk to you, so that you can live and move and have your being in him, but you're still in your body. So don't expect God to talk to you through your mind or your body or the signs and wonders around you. He doesn't have to turn the moon blue for you just so that you can know that he's with you. God, if you're really with me, we turn the moon blue. That's like Peter. If that's you, Lord, bid me to come to you. And then he was surprised when Jesus said, come. And then he sunk because he didn't count on that. You see, you're not led by signs and wonders. You're led by the Spirit of God. You're not even led by prophets. Did you know that? He who is a son of God is led by the Spirit of God, not by prophets. It doesn't say those who are led by prophets are the sons of God. Wow. Okay, so the holy fire is designed to get rid of resistance. It's your friend. But people run from it. But don't you know that eventually what is chaff, what is wood, hay, it's stubble, is going to be burned up anyway. So what are you holding on to? You judge yourself lest you be judged. You fall on the rock lest the rock fall on you. You kiss the sun on the way and make it right. These are all verses that have to do with getting it right with Jesus, getting it right with God. You do that now. You don't wait. And God's not going to speak to you by putting you in the hospital. I tell God, I don't need you to put me in the hospital. Just talk to me. You don't have to put some disease on me to teach me something. Just tell me. I'll do it. Do you understand God doesn't have to talk to you that way? You're a son. Your father doesn't want you to have cancer. Your mother would never wish that on you. The things that you go through, God's not doing that to teach you something. He uses it. You see, those things happen because you're going to win and pass your test. The Spirit of God leads you into the desert to be tempted by the devil, just like with Jesus. He leads you in there because once you beat him, it's permanent. You have marked, you've made a legacy for your life. When you say no to ungodliness and worldly passions and you live an upright life in Christ Jesus, when you win, the devil will leave you and go to someone weaker that he can beat. I'm telling you the truth. So I want to leave you with this because you've got to yield to the fire. And the fire is from the altar. It's from another realm, and it shifts you. Now, what I feel now is I don't know what you feel, but I feel the other world. There's no clocks where I'm at right now. There's no weight. There's no distance. There's no. It's just yes. So after you have done this, you've yielded to the fire and you've prayed from the fire, then what? This is what you do. You start to speak where you're going. And this little rudder called your tongue starts to position you. According to the book of James, you're saying where you're going. Your tongue is a little member, but it will even a small rudder will turn a ship. So James was equating the tongue as being the thing that guides your life. So you have to watch what you say. It's better not to answer someone than answer incorrectly. I'm coming down with a healing. I'm not sick. I'm coming down with a healing. I'm healed. I'm going somewhere that was designated. Now, this is what Psalms 139 says. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Psalms 139:5 says, I, the Lord, prepare the way to your future and stand there. And I also go behind you and I protect you from the hurts of your past. So God goes to your future and he bids you to come to him. That's pretty easy. You just walk to Jesus and you get to the right place. He's in your future, standing there waiting for you to come to him. That's not oversimplified. The devil is the one that makes it complicated. It's easy to walk on the water when you don't look at it. You look at Jesus. As soon as Peter took his eyes off him, he started sinking. You're going to be fine. I'm completely possessed by Jesus right now, and he's telling you, you're going to be fine. You're going to make it. You have a bright future. You just walk with him. I love you all. But the impartation you received tonight is beyond your ability to understand. I have felt the powers of the coming age go into you. I felt the impartation of heaven without laying hands on you. We didn't even have music at the end of the service. And yet you're going to walk out of here with your package. Can I prophesy over you? Because I feel the word of the Lord coming. I have spoken this night. I have told you the way that it is. Will you trust me? Will you allow me to steer your life, says the Lord? Will you give yourself over to the fire from heaven? Allow me to touch you. Allow me to light you on fire and burn without being consumed. You are my handiwork, my workmanship. I have formed you. I have spoken over you. I have written about you. And now I'm going to walk with you. I am never going to leave you. What you feel tonight will never leave. This is permanent. If you will ask of me, you shall have it. If you seek me, you're going to find me. If you knock, the door will be open to you. I have never limited you. I have never spoken against you. I birthed you. Ask of me that your joy may be full. Ask of me. There are no limits. Do not hold back. Only believe. Even your children will turn back to you when they turn back to me. Your families will be put back together. I will make it good. The curse has been broken. You are free. I saw the oppression lift off this city. I saw everything change over this country. Completely change. It's all going to change.
Many people go through life wishing they could understand the realm of the spirit and the warfare that goes on behind the scenes. In his brand new study guide and 3 CD set, The Notes of a Warrior, Volume 1, Dr. Kevin Zadai helps you to develop your ability to engage the enemy on every level. Kevin's brand new study guide and 3 CD set, The Notes of a Warrior, Volume 1, will help equip you to learn to recognize God's direction for your life, encounter clarity in knowing God's battle strategies against your enemies, exercise your authority as a believer, walk in increased discernment through the Holy Spirit's power, and much, much more. In this exclusive offer, Kevin also prays impartation prayers on each CD to help you in your advance against the enemy. Order today Kevin's brand new study guide and exclusive 3 CD set, The Notes of a Warrior Volume 1, for a donation of $29, US shipping and handling included. To order, call 888-340-1460 with offer code 100T, or go online to kevinzadai.com/offer. It's time to stand up for your rights as a Christian and give the devil a headache.
Even the country will prosper to the place where the people will prosper. It all has to do with you making a decision inside that you will have it no other way. I know what I'm talking about. I will not take no for an answer. You will have the reality of God in your life and in this country. You will serve God. This country will serve God. This land is set apart for God. And that's the way it's going to be. Once you decide that in your spirit, you become the wall that the enemy can't pass through. You become the guardians. There's so many people in here, you have no idea what's happening in your body right now. There's things reversing just as I'm talking. There's all kinds of chemical imbalances that are reversing. There's organs that are operating correctly. You need to check it out. A lot of what you're going through, the Lord told me, is because of anxiety, because of stress. A lot of your digestive issues are because of the warfare that you've had to go through. You feel uptight because your spirit's sensing the warfare, but the Lord's saying, I'm lifting that off you. I'm lifting it off this country. Right now, I mean, the freedom we have in America is amazing. And even when it seems like it gets real tight, I just buy another gun. Because I can do that. It's a Second Amendment. Do you understand? I can pray in tongues down the street. And if you're in California, everybody's weird there, so they don't even question you. I walk down the street praising God, and nobody even pays attention to me there because they're all crazy. Do you understand? America is that way because the powers that be were dethroned. And when they build up and they start to take over, they get dethroned again. Why? Because we have people that are crazy and know how to pray. We have people that stay up all night and pray. We would go to church, and we would go at night because we had the 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. shift in prayer. And we worked full time. So I wasn't surprised when one morning the pastor got up to preach and everybody fell out, even the ushers, and they laid there for hours. And it happened for 2 years. where people came in for band practice at 9 when the service started at 10, started worshiping it with the practice. So they just started the service at 9. And when they dismissed, nobody could get up. But it started with prayer. It might be the ingredient that's missing in this country. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. So anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for letting me speak to you tonight. This was really different than what I anticipated. But you got a piece of me now that works. You can do this, but you have to be aggressive, and you can't go by feelings. You have to go by letting God light your candle inside of you. Get lit up. It's a spiritual thing. It's not fantasy. You are a flame. You have been ignited by the fire of God, and you speak from that. I'll see you tomorrow morning.